world. Hey, YouTube sisters and brothers. I decided to impromptu, let me make sure the volume is high on this thing. Okay, it's at its highest. I decided to do an impromptu Q&A type video. I don't have my videographer today, so hopefully it's okay. I just decided to go outside and shoot and answer some questions. And so I'm creating a series based on the most common questions I've been getting in free calls. For the past 3 months, I've been taking free calls from my email list. And so if you're not on the email list, get on the email list so you can have a 20-minute jam session with me if you'd like. And one of the most common questions I get, I'm going to go through a whole series of questions, but one of them is, should I work with a chemist? So that is a complicated answer. It's not a yes or no answer to that question. It's multifactorial, okay? So I'm going to go over a few factors that you'd want to consider to see if working with a chemist is the best option for you. Okay, so the first thing you want to look at is, what are the advantages of working with a chemist versus the disadvantages, and what are the pros and cons of the do-it-yourself method, where you teach yourself to formulate and you start by making stuff in your kitchen. So when you're working with a chemist, one of the advantages is that it is going to be relatively fast for you. Hi there, my neighbor's passing with her dogs. It's going to be faster than if you teach yourself, right? I mean, that's just a fact. Even if they take 3 months to formulate and have a 6-week lead time, or they take maybe a month to formulate and have a 12-week lead time into manufacturing, it's still going to be faster than figuring it out yourself. Okay, so there is that advantage. There's advantage of not having to struggle initially with figuring out proportions and ingredients and so forth. So there is an advantage of sort of being able to hand someone over something. It's kind of like, what is the advantage of having a babysitter or taking your child to daycare, is that while they're there, you don't necessarily have to deal with it. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to worry about your child while they're in daycare or with the babysitter, but there is a freeing up of your time that happens by doing that. That frees you to focus on other things like marketing, like creating relationships that will help to pull your brand forward. So, there is that advantage, and there's also a sort of a freedom from worry of knowing if everything is okay, because if it's coming from a certified facility, if it's done by a qualified chemist, they're preserving it at the right rate. They're going to do the stability testing. They're going to make sure it's the right pH. They're going to do all those things that might worry you if you're just starting out. Okay, so there's a handing over of responsibility that alleviates some stress for you in some ways. Okay, so the disadvantages, I would say, let's go to that point I made about being able to pass off some responsibilities safely to someone else. It's like, there's an advantage to being a stay-at-home mom and an advantage being able to work. And I think that sometimes when you are handing off your product line project to a chemist, to a lab, there is a part of you that never fully knows what is happening with that. Every time you have a question, you're going to have to defer to someone else. Every time you need to tweak the formula, you're going to have to defer to someone else. Does that person really know the industry? Have they researched it? Are you dealing with a new graduate who might be, honestly, there's an emphasis on STEM now and trying to get more girls into the sciences all over the world, not just in the United States. However, a lot of chemists, especially of a certain age, the predominant gender is male and the predominant ethnicity is white, you know. And then you start getting younger, you get a lot more white and Asian people, you start to get more females, you even get females of color. There's a wonderful sister by the name of, who goes by Sister Scientist, who has a website, you can look her up. So she's a black female with natural hair who's a cosmetic chemist. Woohoo! If you had someone like that, I mean, how could you lose, right? She knows the industry. She knows what kind of products you want because she's using those kind of products herself. She's interested in it. She's going to respect what you're trying to do. And so there's no argument there. But the majority of people you'll be working with are not that person, okay, or that kind of person. So there is that factor. And you're coming in with your ethnic hair care line. So there's that disadvantage. And then the biggest disadvantage, especially because I speak to more people who are artisans, you know, I think you attract people who are at the level that you're at or that you want to teach. And a lot of people don't have a $30,000 budget, you know. They're starting off with a few $100s. Some people have, you know, several $1,000s saved. But for a lot of people with the budget that they're starting out with, when you're dealing with a cosmetic chemist, you may be going up to like $2,500 per product. And most people want to do a 4-product line. So if you're doing a 4-product line, so that's $10,000 just for the formulation. This isn't even before you've paid for manufacturing or design, labeling, for fulfillment, if you're gonna be shipping to Amazon, or, you know, having someone else handling the shipping, or storage if you don't live in a mansion and you want to store your, you know, 2,000 units of product. All of those expenses are still gonna come up, and that's after you've plunked down $10,000 just for someone to design a formula for you. Okay, doesn't mean that includes making it. It just depends. I mean, there's a variance, but I think that is average for the places that are reputable. Okay, so that's a huge expense, you know, and it can be something that people use as an excuse not to begin. For the average middle-class family in the United States, it could take years for them to save $10,000 just to put aside for a project. Okay, if you're young and child-free and, you know, you're single, you know, that $10,000 could just mean an extra part-time job. Okay, after work, you go work at, I don't know, Taco Bell or wherever. You can amass $10,000 in a year if you're disciplined. But you know, people are in different age ranges and have different responsibilities, and that's not always easy for people. Okay, and in different parts of the world, I mean, 10,000 US dollars in the US is different from 10,000 US dollars somewhere else. That's another thing. So if you're in Africa, if you're in Asia, if you're in the Middle East, then that could be a different factor for you. So that's the main advantages and disadvantages. So what should determine what you do is the following factors. You have to decide how involved you want to be in your brand. Do you really want to be behind your brand? I think that there is a credibility that comes from having made it yourself and figured out the proportions yourself. And it's not rocket science. I think there is a place for cosmetic chemistry in this world. That's why it's a whole field of study. You know, you can go get a master's in cosmetic chemistry. It's a subdivision of the general chemistry field. There's a reason for that. And that is quite different from being a kitchen artisan, where you're just creating beauty products, old school apothecary style products, or store quality products in that same old school apothecary manner of making it yourself and in handmade and small batches, labeled, selling to people. Those are two completely different things. And just because you don't have a chemistry degree and you're not wearing a lab coat, it doesn't mean that you can't make beautiful, exquisite, quality products to share with the public. Okay, so you just have to decide how much of you want to bring into the brand, how much control you want over it, how much ability to change easily and pivot, to delete products or to include products. You have much more freedom to do that when you do it yourself. You also have to decide how much time you have. Say for example, you have a clothing company that's doing really well, and now you want to add a hair care line, or a makeup line or skincare line, whatever. You might not have as much time to do the DIY route. It could be in that particular case, you have the budget, but you don't have the time, and you already have a platform through which to market. Then you want to get a cosmetic chemist, and I would say in addition to that, you want to get a project manager who is going to then project manage each aspect of that project. So, who's going to talk to the chemist to convey your wishes, who's going to talk to the branding people, who's going to, so that you can have a go-between who can handle that, and you just convey to them what it is you're trying to do. So, depending on who you are catering to, where you're starting off from, what your budget is, what your time allocation is, the chemist route could be appropriate for you. I'm not the kind of person to say only one way, only people making stuff themselves, or only go to a chemist, that's the only legitimate way. There are different things that you can do, and hopefully this video helped you. The next video will be on, I've chosen to work with a chemist, what should I be looking for? So I'll do that next, and then there'll be a bunch of other videos too, like, I've chosen to do it myself, what should I be looking to do? So I'll see you in the next video. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you. Bye-bye.